We'll be in the Laughter Lift very shortly, but first,
Oh dear.
tell us something that's out and available for
So
us.
Nitram, which is a new movie by Justin Kurzel, whose CV includes Snowtown, which was based on real-life murders from 90s South Australia, Macbeth with Michael Fassbender, Assassin's Creed, again with Fassbender. Remember, with Macbeth had Fassbender. And did you interview Marion Cotillard for that? You did an interview for Macbeth.
I can't remember.
Anyway, okay, fine. And The True History of the Kelly Gang with gorgeous George Mackay. So this stars Caleb Landry Jones, who is a disturbed young man nicknamed Nitram, which you discover is Martin backwards, living with his mother and father in Port Arthur, Australia. He seems, when we first meet him, to have clinical, emotional, behavioural difficulties, but also a reckless streak. We know that he burned himself as a child, and we now see him giving fireworks to local school children. His mum's played by Judy Davis, the brilliant Judy Davis, somebody who wears her nerves on the outside. His father loves him but struggles to contain his behaviour. His father has set his sights on buying a home that he can turn into a B&B. He says it's his dream, it's the thing he wants to do. He then meets up with a wealthy woman, Helen, played by Essie Davis, who was so great in Babadook, which we mentioned earlier on in the show. She lives on her own with her cats and dogs. He turns up saying, can I mow your lawn? But he clearly couldn't mow a lawn, he doesn't know what he's doing. Instead, she takes him in, ends up buying him a car, and he basically moves in with her. They then meet his mother, who is not best pleased at this arrangement. Here's a clip.
I've heard a lot about you.
It's you, love.
I like the colours.
You look like a superhero.
Sexy.
I've got you something too. It's our star sign. You know, our birthdays are only 9 days apart.
No, I didn't.
Oh, poor monk.
Hey, do you want me to bring the cake out now?
Maybe after.
Right.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Happy birthday.
I've got him something else too.
More gold?
Something sweet I know he'll like.
Oh, goodness, you know a lot about my son.
Can you live with someone?
What exactly is going on here?
Sorry, I don't know what you mean.
He mows your lawn, you buy him a car. He mows it again, he moves in with you. What's next, marriage?
He needed a car.
He doesn't have a license.
I didn't know that.
Yes, well, I guess you don't know everything.
All the tension.
Well, so for a while, the drama kind of continues like that. It's kind of like a more anxious version of like the Harold and Maude odd couple scenario. Then things really start to fall apart. The house purchase that his father wants to make falls through. His father falls into depression. Helen suffers an accident. He ends up in the house alone with his thoughts and her money, and his attentions turn to guns, which are shockingly easy to purchase. The film is inspired by the real-life story of a lone shooter who's currently serving 35 life sentences because of an atrocity committed in 1996. Nitram is, as I said, Martin, named backwards. Because that history is still very recent, the film met with a lot of controversy in Tasmania. The mayor of the Tasman Council condemned the decision to make it at all. Several other local notaries expressed concern. The director said, "I've never worried so much about making a film. The last thing I want to do is to bring trauma to a place that I absolutely adore and love, and decided to bring my children up in." But the writer, Sean Grant, started working on the script after being in the US in 2018 when there were two shootings, the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting and the Thousand Oaks in California, and hearing people defending their right to own semi-automatic rifles. And this started him thinking about the Port Arthur massacre. And he said, "I wanted everyday responsible people to walk in the shoes of someone who should not have a weapon and then watch them walk into a gun shop and see how easy it was." So the film is specifically about an issue that is really contemporary and very, very urgent. What kind of society would allow you to purchase weapons? The atrocities themselves happen off screen. But there is a really shocking scene in which a character played by Caleb Landry Jones walks into a gun shop with a bag of money and is sold quite happily an arsenal of terrifying weapons. And this is treated as if it is completely fine and normal. Now, the film ends with an acknowledgement that despite a national firearms agreement in 1996, there are now more guns in Australia than prior to the agreement. And as far as the controversy about the film when it was being made, it went on to won eight Australian Academy Awards, including Best Film, Best Director, Best Screenplay for Sean Grant, Best Actor for Caleb Landry Jones, Best Actress for Judy Davis, Best Supporting Actress for Essie Davis. Caleb Landry Jones won Best Actor at Cannes. And now, I didn't know anything about the film before I started watching it, which is kind of why I've constructed my review in the way I have. I just knew that I knew the director's name, and I knew Caleb Landry Jones and of other members of the cast. And I thought that what was very powerful is it does exactly the thing that the writers said they wanted to do, which was to confront somebody with a picture of somebody who clearly, absolutely clearly, should not have access to guns, and then watch them have access to guns in a scene that is really kind of underplayed and low-key, but utterly terrifying. Now, I do understand, of course, that any film that is dealing with a still fairly recent tragedy is going to cause controversy and is not going to be for everybody. But I would say that in a world in which the issue of gun ownership is a very heated question, I mean, even recently the Vatican were talking about this. It is a salutary lesson in the insanity of a world in which there are access to those kind of weapons. And as I said, the fact that the scariest scene in the film is a scene of somebody going in to buy guns and being sold guns tells you something about how restrained the film is, how much the film is about following a character and showing you a character and the life that they have and the confusions that they have, and then watching them walk into a gun shop and buy guns. That was what I took away from it.
And the movie is called Nitram.